Good morning, dear students of class 8. Welcome to the English online learning class. Today we are going to take up the lesson The Best Christmas Present Part 6. So first let us revise what we did in the previous classes. The narrator, he went to a junk shop in Bridport to buy a roll-top desk. He always wanted to buy, but they were very expensive. In the junk shop, he found the roll-top desk of pure oak wood, early 19th century. It was cheap also, but the roll-top desk was in bad condition. There were burn marks, but he decided to buy it. And he thought he is going to repair it. He made the payment, brought it to his workroom at the back of the garage, and started working on it on the Christmas Eve. Now, he had to remove the roll-top desk completely. He pulled out the drawers, and in the last drawer, he found that there was a secret drawer, and there was a small tin box. On the top of the tin box, there was sellotaped note paper, and on it was written, Jim's last letter, received January 25, 1915. To be buried with me when the time comes. Means when the person who has got the letter dies. Now, it is not good to open anyone's letter, but the narrator decided to open it and read because he was curious to know. Now, when he opened the box, he found that there was an envelope, and the address of the envelope was Mrs. Jim McPherson, 12 Copper Beaches, Bridport, Dorset. And there was a letter. He opened the letter. It was written in pencil, and it was dated December 26, 1914. Now, what was written in this letter? It was addressed to Dearest Coney. Dearest Coney was Mrs. Jim McPherson. She was called as Coney by her husband. I write to you in much happier frame of mind. Something wonderful has happened. So the letter was being written by her husband, Mr. Jim McPherson, from the battlefield. There was a war going on between England and Germany. So from the war side, the letter was written by her husband to his wife, Mrs. Coney, Mrs. Jim McPherson. And Mr. Jim McPherson is writing this letter. Now, he was saying in the letter that one thing wonderful happened in the Christmas morning, yesterday morning. And this was that the morning was very pleasant. And both the armies, the German and the English army, British army, they were in their trenches. Trenches are long, deep ditches in the ground where soldiers hide from the enemy. Now from the Fritz side, that is from the German side, German soldiers are called Fritz. So someone called out, Happy Christmas, Tommy. Tommy is a common English name used to refer to the British soldiers. And the British soldiers also replied back, Same to you, Fritz, same to you. So they were greeting each other. But then the German soldiers in great coat, they started waving flags and they started walking into the no man's land. And they were carrying with them schnapps, German drinks, and sausages. They wanted the English soldiers to join them for a feast. Now first, The writer of this letter, Mr. Jim McPherson, did not want his soldiers to join them because he thought it was a trick of the German soldiers. But then none of the soldiers listened to him. Little Private Morris was the first one to come out. And then there was no stopping. The German and the English soldiers, they mixed with each other in the no man's land. And they were happily enjoying the Christmas feast. Now, Hans Wolf, who was in charge of the German soldiers, German battalion, he came and he shook hands with Jim McPherson, who was in charge of the British soldiers. And he introduced, I'm from Dusseldorf and I play cello in the orchestra. That is before joining the army. And Captain Jim McPherson also said, Happy Christmas. And he said, I am a school teacher from Dorset in the west of England. Now they forgot war. They were talking about their cities, the places they belonged to. They were talking about books. They were sharing food. They were sharing drinks. They even played game of football in which the Germans won. But Hans Wolf, the German captain, said that the English played very nicely. Their style of making goal was perfect. And then Jim also said, if we had played cricket, we would have won the match because we are good in cricket. Now, Hans felt that instead of fighting wars, disputes should be resolved by playing games. Because in war, there are orphans, children become orphans, and wives, they become widows. So, war does not give happiness. There is sadness all round. And Jim also agreed this. Now, time came when both the sides, they went back to their trenches, but in the night again they were singing carols, Christmas carols, which could be heard from both the sides. They really enjoyed that Christmas in the battleground. They forgot about war and they were enjoying the festival of Christmas. Now, Jim ends the letter. He says, by Christmas time next year, the war will come to an end. But then, maybe it brings with it sadness, bad memories. And he also said, today what happened, we could feel that both the German and the British armies, they do not want war. They want peace. And he said, we shall be together again soon. He was telling his wife. Now the third part. Now the narrator had read the letter. Now he thought that he should go to the person to whom the letter was, Mrs. Jim McPherson, and give this letter to her. But when he reached the address, he asked a boy who was walking his dog. The boy showed him the house. The house was all burnt. So he checked with a neighbor who was staying nearby. And this old man said that the lady was a lovely old lady. But she was muddle-headed. She was confused. And she was 101 years old. At her age, anyone would be. The house got on fire because she used to use candles. She did not use electricity. as she thought electricity was very expensive. The house was burned, but the firemen saved her life. Now she was in a nursing home, Burlington House on the Dorchester Road. So the narrator decided to go there. I found Burlington House nursing home easily enough. There were paper chains up in the hallway and lighted Christmas tree stood in the corner with lopsided angel on the top. I said I was a friend come to visit Mrs. Macpherson to bring her a Christmas present. So the narrator introduced himself as a friend of Mrs. Macpherson, and he said, I have brought her a Christmas present. I could see through into the dining room where everyone was wearing paper hat and singing. The matron had a hat on too and seemed happy enough to see me. She even offered me a mince pie. She walked me along the corridor. Mrs. Macpherson is not in with others, she told. She is rather confused today, so we thought it best she had a good rest. She has no family, you know. No one visits, so I am sure she will only be too pleased to see you. So this is what the matron said, that she is confused and especially today she needs rest, and that is why she is not with others. And she said nobody comes to meet her, and so she will be very happy to see you. She took me into the conservatory with wicker chairs and potted plants all around and left me. So the matron took him to the room of Mrs. Jim Macpherson. The old lady was sitting in a wheelchair, her hands folded in her lap. She had silver white hair pinned into a wispy bun. So her hair was silver colored and they were made into a bun. She was gazing out into the garden. Gazing means looking. She was looking into the garden. Hello, I said. She turned and looked up at me vacantly. Happy Christmas, Coney, I went on. I found this. I think it is yours. So the narrator called her Coney and he gave her a Christmas present, which was the letter. He wished her happy Christmas. As I was speaking, her eyes never left my face. I opened the tin box and gave it to her. That was the moment her eyes lit up with recognition and her face became suffused with sudden glow of happiness. When she got this tin box, suddenly her eyes lit up. She was recognizing something and she was full of happiness. I explained about the desk and how I had found it. So the narrator told her that he found this in the roll top desk. He was telling her everything, but I don't think she was listening. She was not paying attention. For a while she said nothing, but stroked the letter tenderly with her fingertips. She was just moving her fingers on the letter. Suddenly she reached out and took my hand. Her eyes were filled with tears. You told me you would come home by Christmas, dearest, she said. And here you are, the best Christmas present in the world. Come closer, Jim, dear, sit down. So she confused the narrator. She thought the narrator was her husband who has returned from the battlefield, Jim Macpherson. And she said, you are the best Christmas present in the world because you have come back. I sat down beside her. She kissed my cheek. I read your letter so often, Jim, every day. I wanted to hear your voice in my head. It made me feel you were with me, and now you are. Now you are back. You can read it to me yourself. Would you do that for me, Jim dear? I just want to hear your voice again. I'd love that so much. And then perhaps we'll have tea. I'll have made you a nice Christmas cake. I have made for you a Christmas cake, marzipan, all around. I know how much you love marzipan. So she was thinking the narrator was her husband who has returned from the battlefield. And she was very happy to see her husband back. A very emotional and sentimental story. Here, at this point, the story comes to an end. Thank you.